Hey friends, it's Jessica from Three Rivers Homestead, and I'm coming to you from Adam's garage. We have 9 kids, a very busy family, and the house right now was just way too loud for me to film what I wanted to say here for you. So I escaped out here to Adam's garage where it's nice and peaceful and quiet. So I had a few minutes to talk to you before our video gets started. In this week's video, I'm going to bring you what was happening here on the homestead here at the very end of May. The boys and I made some beef jerky from scratch, and we're going to show you our process and some of the favorite flavorings that we used for that this week. I had purchased some sale potatoes from Azure that came to me sprouted, and so we're going to use those sprouted potatoes in some different applications in the garden and preserving to fill the pantry. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to show you what we were up to for Memorial Day. And while you get to view all of that footage, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we balance work and fun on the homestead, because it is summer. It's a very busy time of year. There is always work that could be done. But then, the weather is so beautiful that we don't want to work the whole time. We do want to have time to have fun with the children. They're only little for so long. And so I'm going to talk about how we balance those two things, maintaining a productive homestead while also making sure to prioritize fun times that don't center around work. But before we get started, I want to talk to you about the sponsor of this video, and that is Backwoods Home Magazine and their sister publication, Self-Reliance Magazine. I've been working with this company since last fall, but I was a reader of this publication long before I partnered with them here. I remember reading my first copy of this magazine probably about 15 years ago. We were living in the suburbs, dreaming of getting on our homestead, and I was starting to research things like gardening and animal husbandry and all of these things that I was wanting to do once we got our own land. And so this was one of the publications that I really enjoyed at that time. I think it's useful for people living in the suburbs because there's baking information, canning information, gardening information, things that you can do without having a homestead. And it's also useful for people that have more land and are growing larger livestock, or people that are interested in hunting or foraging or anything like that. I love the building tutorials. I've gotten so many ideas here of things that I'm kind of dreaming around the homestead that I want to build based on the tutorials that are in here. There's also really useful information for teaching the children things. I find that the articles are written in a way that the children understand, and so sometimes I'll find them leafing through this to kind of learn things. So another thing that I really appreciate about this magazine is that, a lot of these popular homesteading magazines are just full of advertisements, but this has very minimal advertisements. It is a majority articles and information. So if you're looking for a publication that will help you learn the types of things that you learn on my channel, the same type of food preservation, gardening, homesteading content, this is the magazine for you. And you can get 50% off of your subscription if you check out the link in the video description. I am very happy to promote this magazine and so grateful that they've chosen to sponsor our channel. So make sure you check them out. And with that said, we're going to go ahead and get to this week's content. And all right, let's go ahead and get started. The garden is looking green and beautiful, and we're starting to harvest meals from it, which I've been bringing you in recent videos. And I'm going to get back to that next week. We'll have another meals video, but I thought it would be fun to show you some of the other non-meal food-related projects that we've been up to lately on the homestead. And so that is what I'm going to talk about. We have a problem lately with snacks and kids. We're in a very busy season, and I've been buying these beef sticks for my older boys in particular who want a protein snack. And so this week I decided let's make some homemade beef jerky, and I'm going to show you our process. So I'm using round steaks. These are a cut that our butcher gives us that are perfect for making beef jerky. And so what I do is I just slice them into thin pieces like this. The thicker you slice them, the longer they're going to take to dry out. You also want to make sure whatever size you cut them that you consistently make them the same size, so as you dry it later in the dehydrator, it will all dry at the same rate, and you don't end up with some that are super thick that are still going to be kind of undone in the middle, and you're going to have some that are super thin that might end up too dry and are really hard to chew. So once I got them all sliced, I decided to divide them out into 1 pound portions. These were 5 large round steaks that I decided to thaw and cut up. And we ended up with 9 pounds of jerky. And I just put them into their 1 pound Ziploc bags and let my older children experiment with whatever flavors they thought would taste good. So the options I gave them, we put out some hot sauce, we had honey, of course, salt and pepper, things like paprika, garlic salt. We had several different barbecue rubs that we use for things like briskets and other things, other kinds of meat that we smoke. We had liquid smoke. We also had Worcestershire sauce. Did I pronounce that right, you guys? You guys always tell me if I don't say that correctly. And we also had barbecue sauce. And I just let each of the boys do about 3 bags themselves and played with the different seasonings. Now, these seasonings right here, this is Meat Church barbecue rubs, ended up being some of the favorite flavorings. And I think they liked them because they put a lot in the bag. And this is what we learned. If you're doing sauces like a barbecue sauce or if you're doing a rub, more is definitely better than less when it comes to dehydrating meat, because there were things like hot sauce that the boys poured into their bags, and they thought if they put too much, it was going to be too hot and people wouldn't enjoy it. But then you barely tasted that hot sauce flavor by the time it was completely dehydrated. So all of the boys got all their flavorings done in the bags. We put it in the fridge and let it marinate for about 24 hours. And then the next day, I was able to pull out my dehydrator and start arranging them on the trays. We put 1 flavoring per tray because I have 9 trays in my Excalibur dehydrator here. I got this dehydrator probably, I don't know, 12 years ago, and I love it. It does a great job of drying. What I don't love about it is the fact that the trays are plastic. And one day I'll remedy this and get some replacement trays that are stainless steel. But for now, we're using what we've got. I just typically, as a rule, don't like to heat foods on plastic, but we're doing what we can with the tools that we have right now. And so I set my dehydrator for 145 degrees for the jerky. And then every hour or so, I come in and I rotate my trays like this just to make sure the heat distribution is even throughout the trays. And about 10 to 11 hours later, everything was completely dried. And so then the boys took each tray and put it into its own little, these are like upcycled lunch meat containers. And they labeled each lid with the flavorings that they made that jerky with. And we have 9 little containers here that the kids could taste test and determine which one they liked the best. And then they could snack on these throughout the week. And this saves us so much money compared to the healthier store-bought meat sticks or jerkies that are available in the grocery store. And this is homegrown beef. It's the highest quality that we know that we can raise, and it's made with seasonings that are much healthier. It doesn't have corn syrups and soy and a lot of the things that we typically try to avoid. So the kids did a taste test, and what they decided is they loved the rubs. The barbecue rubs were the best, and it's because they used a lot of that seasoning, and they also liked the barbecue sauce the best. The third place runner-up was the Worcestershire sauce and liquid smoke combination. So that was what we enjoyed doing with our jerky this week. Up next, I'm going to tackle this box. I have a 50-pound box of yellow potatoes that I bought from Azure Standard on sale, and it worked out to be right around $1 a pound, which for organic potatoes is a great price. It's an even better price for seed potatoes. I don't know if you've ever seen what seed potatoes cost in the store, but you're paying at a minimum like $2 a pound. I guess it just depends on what store you're going to. A lot of local options will have them for cheaper, but if you're ordering from a company online or going to somewhere like Tractor Supply, I think the cheapest I've ever seen them is $2 a pound. So we got busy planting some of this much cheaper seed potato. I've always had great results with Azure Standard's organic potatoes. If you're planting potatoes that are from the store, you do want to make sure they're organic because that means they won't be sprayed. Non-organic potatoes, they spray them with a certain chemical that prevents them from sprouting, and that's going to affect, obviously, their ability to grow more potatoes in the ground.
And so we got 2 large beds filled with potatoes this week. Our in-ground plot had already been planted with potatoes actually last year and is overwintering, and those potato plants are about a foot high already, but we got more beds planted and we're excited about that. We also took some of those yellow potatoes that were left that weren't planted and made a huge batch of mashed potatoes. I put bacon grease there in my mashed potatoes to make them dairy-free without the butter. Bacon grease gives the best flavor to mashed potatoes. I absolutely love it. And we just filled up some glass dishes here and let that cool down. And we're going to put those in the freezer. That's the first way I preserved these excess sprouted potatoes. This will make some really easy shepherd's pie meals this summer or other meals in which we want some mashed potatoes. On top of the yellow potatoes, I also got a box of russet potatoes that were also sprouting, and my goal in these was to make French fries. I did a whole video on this last year for you, how I make homemade frozen French fries, but I'll just give you the quick rundown in this video and link the other video in the video description. So the first thing you do is as you slice them, you do want to soak them in water. This will prevent the potatoes from turning gray as you're slicing a large amount of them. And then we're going to take them and drop them in boiling water to blanch the potatoes for approximately 3 minutes. You never want to freeze raw potatoes without cooking them, or they're going to be complete mush when they thaw. But blanching them for 3 minutes works great. We just pull them out, let them thoroughly dry before we package them up. You could also bake the potatoes to cook them. I've done that in the past too. And then you're going to put them on a cookie sheet or something to flash freeze them in one single layer before you're going to bag them up. And this prevents them, like if we had just taken those blanched potatoes and put them directly in a bag, we would have had one big chunk of frozen potatoes. But this way, they're kind of individual fries that will be easy to use once we open the bags. And then when we want to make French fries, we can just take those frozen potatoes and drop them directly in some hot homemade tallow here, or we could bake them in the oven and drizzle them with some oil, however we would like to make those French fries. And it's just a great thing to have on hand through the summer months. We do a lot of grilling burgers or grilling brats, and, of course, French fries are the perfect side dish for that meal. But sometimes making them completely from scratch is sort of an ordeal. So having it halfway done, they're already cut and they're already halfway cooked through the blanching. All I got to do is drop them in some hot tallow. It just makes meals go that much more smoothly. And these are a lot healthier of a version of a French fry than store-bought frozen French fries. They're just with a healthier oil, and I know I can pronounce all the ingredients that are in these. So we're really happy to have some of those on hand. Now, of course, any food preservation project that I do, we've got to do a little bit of canning, right? I've got to fill some jars, and I have a lot of empty jars this time of year. So the short version of how to can potatoes is you peel them, you chunk them up, and then you raw pack them in water in your quart-sized jars, and then you can pressure can them for 40 minutes. And when you're done, you have cooked, shelf-stable potatoes that are perfect for things like potato salad or fried potatoes. I love to dump these into my beef stew and things. It just is such a treat to have these convenient and on the shelf. I did a pantry tour for you guys a few videos ago to show you what my shelves look like, and one of the things we were really low on was canned potatoes, which are one of my favorite convenience items to have on hand. And so I was happy to fill the shelves up a little more because it's going to be a while before the potatoes that we have in the garden are going to be available and ready for use. So these should get us through the rest of the summer months, and we'll be busy preserving the rest of those potatoes through next week. So now I'm going to show you some footage from Memorial Day weekend. We had such a lovely weekend. The weather cooperated and was beautiful, and we had the perfect mix of getting a little bit of work done, but also having a lot of time to play with the children. You'll see us in these videos playing baseball and football and volleyball with the kids, and also cooking some really amazing meals, using up some of the things in our pantry and that we have in the freezers. And so while you guys look at some footage from our Memorial Day weekend, I thought I would talk to you a little bit about the balance between having fun on the homestead and getting work done. Because as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, summer is just such a busy time. There's so much that you can do in the garden and with the animals, and sometimes it can feel overwhelming if you spend your entire weekend, especially if you have a husband who works off the homestead during the work week. Weekends can be some of the only time that you have to get those projects done, but it's also some of the only time you have as a family all together to enjoy your homestead and be outside. And after such a long winter cooped up indoors, we want to be outside and we want to play with the kids and do fun stuff that doesn't always revolve around work. So here are some of the things that I've done over the years to help maintain that balance. When we started out on our homestead, there were definitely some years where I got in over my head. I just took on too much, whether it's ordering too many meat birds that I knew we would have to process, or making the garden too large for the year, or having too much preservation to do. And there were summers that went by where I watched my family play outside and I was just working. Or we didn't have time to play outside because we all had to work together to get everything done, entire weekends of butchering and things like that. And while I find a lot of value in teaching my children these skills, we moved to a homestead so they could obtain skills in homesteading and know where their food comes from and learn how to grow it. We don't want that to be the only memories we have for our children. Or with our children during this season of life. And so we found that we're in this stage of the game, limiting the number of projects we do. We have things that we're doing. Our garden is a very manageable size. I'm not in over my head this year with that. We're doing chickens and some meat birds, but not in very large amounts that are going to be overwhelming for me to manage. And we've got the beef that we're growing that is pretty much kind of self-sufficient at this point with the help of the older kids doing their chores. They don't really require a lot of work on our part. And there is this temptation as a homesteader to take on more and more because you could grow more, we could do more, we could get more animals, but doing that would be at the expense of this time that we would have as a family. And so for us, we're maintaining that balance. We want to be able to grow enough food to help supplement our grocery costs, to help grow the things that really matter to us, like our protein sources. But we don't want to have to sacrifice this time together as a family just for the sake of growing food. And every family will have different priorities and what they want to grow, but I just want to encourage you to not fall into the trap of taking on too much. Every year, at the beginning of the year, evaluate what worked for you in the last year and how much time you had as a family. And if you didn't have enough time last summer, take a step back and do a little less this year. If you had a lot of free time last summer and you feel like it, just take on one new project this year. You don't have to do 10 new things. And that's what will make homesteading more manageable for you. I see a lot of families that burn out because they take on too much too fast in the beginning and they realize what it costs their children. And you don't want to end up in that situation. So the children are the priority. The homesteading should truly be about them. And you shouldn't have to sacrifice that time with them just to do your homesteading dreams. So thank you again to our sponsor, Backwoods Home Magazine, and make sure you check out the link in the video description, and we will be back next week with another video, friends. Until then, have a great week. Bye.